What's going on, Brew Crew? I'm the Brew Captain. I do challenges, how-tos, and reviews. And today, we're going to be reviewing High Hop Brewing's Eastern Star. Let's get this started. What's going on, Brew Crew? Welcome back. If it's your first time here, I'm the Brew Captain. I'm an expert beer drinker and beer enthusiast who wants to show you how to enjoy life with beer. This is going to be one of the many beers that we received in the beer drop that I posted last week. So the beer on the list today is a beer out of Colorado. It's called Eastern Star. It's made by High Hops Brewery. Now this is a New England style IPA. We're going to check out the can. It's got some nice can art on here. We got the Eastern Star at the top. Of course, the company logo, High Hops Brewing, Windsor, Colorado. You got some nice Rocky Mountains, some rivers, and that's about it. But reading the can, what it shows on here, it says brewed and canned by High Hops Brewery. It is a member of the Independent Craft Brewers Association. And Eastern Star has copious amounts of citrusy and fruit-forward hops, including Mosaic, Citra, and Amarillo, were added only during a whirlpool and dry hop stages of the brew to make it juicy and aromatic experience like none other. This is part of the Colorado Can series. So in honor of Colorado's rich beer culture, we at High Hops Brewery wanted to create a series featuring the best experimental beers to come through the Hop Hut, our tap room in Windsor, Colorado, featuring limited edition small batch beers that are as inspired and colorful as the state they were brewed in. Now, for those of y'all who have been watching, I'm originally from Colorado. I do live down here in Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans. So it's kind of cool that I was able to get this limited edition Colorado beer. But before we get into this beer itself, I want to talk a little bit about the IPAs, the New England style IPAs, and what that means for you and the history of the beer. So IPAs are one of those beers that have a really, really interesting history behind them. Back in the 1700s, England had a ton of colonies all around the world. It wasn't any issue to ship the beer from England to the American colonies because the water temperature was perfect. It took months to get there, but the water temperature was around 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 to 13 degrees Celsius, which in my opinion is right around the perfect beer drink temperature. Where the IPA or Indian Pale Ale came in was when they were trying to transport beer from England to India via water route. The trip that they were taking went around the tip of Africa and then back up through the Indian Ocean. The problem is the water temperatures as they got around the equator went up into the 80 degree Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius range, and then it would dip back down into the 60s and then back up into the 80s when they got closer to India. Because it was on a ship, these barrels were constantly moving back and forth, so the beer almost stayed constant in a froth state. Due to it being in this froth state and the constant change in temperatures, along with the fact that these barrels were filled with wild yeast that would turn them sour, many of the barrels that were received in India were thrown out as soon as they got there. So to prevent these beers from going bad, they created a new beer that they referred to as the Indian Pale Ale. These were higher hop in content because the hop inhibited the wild yeast from turning the beer sour and making them undrinkable, which is where we get our original high hoppy goodness from an IPA. What's really crazy about this, though, is the Indian beer market wasn't that great. They were only shipping about 1/6 of the amount of beer to India as they were to the American colonies and everywhere else. So now that they had this new and improved way of transporting the beer and making a new kind of beer, they advertised it to the British people as well as the Americans as a specialty beer made specifically for the people of India. This change in marketing, making people believe that it was an exotic, almost special exclusive kind of beer, is what started the original rise of IPA. Now, throughout the years, IPAs ended up starting to go down in popularity during the war period time, both World War I and World War II. The accessibility to hops and the importance of it really just wasn't there. With the United States Prohibition back in the 30s and 40s, it really, really died out. Until the 1990s. The 1990s, the West Coast IPA really gained a lot of popularity because they realized the hops were growing in their backyard. With so much access to these hops, it really started growing. That's where our West Coast IPAs came into fashion. So you got your West Coast IPAs, you have your English IPAs, and then they came out with the New England style IPA, which is going to be on your East Coast. So the New England IPA isn't as widely known as the West Coast IPAs. New England IPAs tend to be a little bit more smooth and have a creamy mouthfeel to them, unlike the light, dry mouthfeel you get from a West Coast IPA. In addition, they're made purposefully hazy and cloudy, which is where you get that creamy mouthfeel. Stereotypically, they're going to have little to no hoppy bitterness at the end, utilizing hops that impart a tropical, juicy sweetness rather than a more classic, bitter, dark, and citrusy flavor, even dank, that you've come to expect from the West Coast IPAs. So let's check it out and see how it tastes. Gonna crack this baby open. There's that froth. All right. Very, very, yeah, you can definitely see the haziness in this one. Got a lot more head than I was expecting. We got a full 2-finger head on there, which isn't bad. All right, so the color we're looking at, I mean, it's probably going to be around a 10 to 12 on the color scale. It is very light. You can see it's definitely got that hazy. You can't see through it. From my angle here, it really does have that kind of creamy swirl inside of it, almost like a cloud. You got the little champagne bubbles floating up in there. And typically we're going to be around a 12 on the International Bitter Unit scale, the IBU scale. So I'm really excited to see what this smells and tastes like and go from there. So I've had a lot of IPAs made with the Citra, the Mosaic, the Amarillo hops, and they all have a very pineapple-y smell to them. That's going to be the easiest one that most people can think of when they're smelling it. But it also seems like you get a little sense of maybe a papaya. Yeah, papaya. Yeah, papaya, pineapple, maybe passion fruit. Just very, very citrus. Sometimes it can be hard to distinguish between the different ones. Think of like a tropical fruit salad or maybe a can of tropical passion fruit that you would get at the store. Interesting. So this one isn't, I mean, it definitely has that creamy mouthfeel to it. Just kind of coats the tongue. But it at the same time, even though it has a creamy mouthfeel and coats the tongue, it still has that dryness to it. Like you just took a swig of mouthwash and then take a deep breath afterwards. You get that burn in the back of the throat, like chewing on an Altoid. On the front, very, very smooth. It does just roll across the tongue. This is definitely a daily drinker. I mean, you could drink this all day long, just sip on it. It's not super, super bitter. So, I mean, you can drink this by sipping on it. You could drink it with big gulps. It's a very, very pleasant beer. I could see drinking this beer on a hot day, maybe like the 4th of July, cooking bratwurst or hot dogs, some sauerkraut. I think this beer would really, really pair nicely with something like that. Even hot wings. Mine's kind of mellowed out on the temperature. So it's probably around 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 18 Celsius. So a little bit warmer than I would like to drink an IPA at, but it's not horrible. I will have to say, when it comes to this beer, I'd gladly drink it. I'm not sure what the individual cost on a beer of this is. If I was at the Windsor Brewery, I would definitely try it out straight from the tap because I think straight fresh, from the keg would be amazing with this beer. I probably wouldn't actually go out of my way to buy it though. And one thing I haven't noticed is the alcohol content, the ABV. Usually IPAs are going to be like 5 to 7-ish. Okay, yeah, this is a 7% alcohol by volume. So this is going to kind of range in the same area as the Voodoo Ranger IPA, which is a pretty popular one. They have a 7 and they have a 9%. Definitely enjoyable beer too. I have a brewery close by, and they have a company that comes out and they do custom tacos. So these tacos they make, I'm going somewhere with this. The tacos they make are wild. You know, pretty much anything you could think of, you know, they have them. They got fish, they got steak, they got chicken, they got tacos with Cheetos in them, cabbage. Anytime you might have ever had, you know, one too many or a little too much and started thinking about, man, we should make a taco like this. That's the kind of taco they make. And this beer would go fantastic with tacos. So my determination on this beer, definitely a good beer. Great with bar food. Hot dogs, chicken wings, tacos. I'd definitely try it out. But the last step, of course, you know what we do. We got to do the chug test. We know it's good to sip. We know it's good to, you know, kind of take bigger gulps. Let's see how it chugs. But before we do, if you learned something in this video, help out the channel. Take a second to hit that subscribe and like button. Join the Brew Crew. Enjoy us every week with new reviews, how-tos, and let's do this. IPAs are never one that I really highly recommend chugging. It's not horrible. It'd be a little bit better if it was a little bit colder. But as always, when you're out there, drink responsibly, drive safe, stay savvy. Check out the videos popping up on the screen. I'm the Brew Captain. I'll see you next week.